Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The Getaway is a 1972 heist thriller film based on a 1958 novel that was done by Jim Thompson. The film was directed by Sam Peckinpah and written by Walter Hill. It stars Steve McQueen, Ali MacGraw, Ben Johnson, Al Letterly, and Sally Struthers. The storyline goes that when convict Doc McCoy, played by Steve McQueen, is refused parole, he enlists the help of his wife, Carol, played by Ali MacGraw, to strike a deal with crooked Texan Jack Binion, played by Ben Johnson, who agrees to pull strings for him in return for Doc's help on one last bank heist. The job is a success, but Binion's men betray Doc, and he and Carol must take off across Texas with the money, running from both the law and other criminals, aiming to get to Mexico before they're caught or even worse, killed. The project was originally assigned to Peter Bogdanovich, whose movie The Last Picture Show impressed Steve McQueen and producer David Foster so much that they hired him to direct this movie. They brought Jim Thompson aboard to write the screenplay, but creative differences ensued between him and Steve McQueen, and he was subsequently fired along with director Bogdanovich. Writing and directing duties eventually went to Walter Hill and Sam Peckinpah. Principal photography started February 7th, 1972, on location in Texas. And this movie reunited Steve McQueen and Peckinpah, both whom had previously worked together on the relatively unprofitable Junior Bonner, which was released the same year. McQueen is the one that told the producer to approach Peckinpah. At the time, Sam Peckinpah wanted to make a movie called The Emperor of the North Pole, which is a story that's set during the Great Depression about a brakeman obsessed with keeping homeless people off his train. The film's producer made a deal with Paramount production chief Robert Evans, allowing Peckinpah to do this personal project of his if he first directed The Getaway. When Bogdanovich was set to direct, he intended to cast his girlfriend Sybil Shepherd in the role of Carol. As soon as Peckinpah came on to direct, he wanted to cast Stella Stevens, who he had worked with on The Ballad of Cable Hogue from 1970. As a backup to her, he had Angie Dickinson, and as a backup to Dickinson, he had Diane Cannon. The producers suggested Ali MacGraw because she was in real high demand as an actress after the commercial success of Love Story from 1970. And at the time, she was married to Robert Evans, who wanted to avoid her being typecast in preppy roles. When principal photography got underway, they started out in Huntsville, Texas. Peckinpah shot the opening prison scene at the Huntsville Penitentiary, with McQueen surrounded by real, actual convicts. Other shooting locations in Texas towns, such as San Marcos, San Antonio, and El Paso, were used in the production. During filming, Steve McQueen and Ali MacGraw began a love affair. She would eventually go on to leave her husband and become McQueen's second wife. The producers were really worried that their relationship could have a potential negative effect on the film by causing a scandal. Ali MacGraw got her start as a model, and her inexperience as an actress was pretty evident on the set, as she really struggled with this role. According to the producer, she and the director got along really well, but she just wasn't happy with her performance. After the film was completed, she looked at what she had done, and she loved the film itself, but she hated her performance. During the production, Peckinpah's intake of alcohol increased dramatically. This was always a problem on any shoot that he did. He's very fond of saying, "I can't direct when I'm sober." He and McQueen got into occasional heated arguments during the filming. Peckinpah remembers one such incident when they were shooting in San Marcos, and they started discussing some points that they really disagreed on. McQueen picked up a champagne bottle and threw it at him. He saw it coming, and he ducked, and McQueen sat there and laughed about it. McQueen had a real knack for dealing with props, especially weapons. You can see his military training in all his films. He was so brisk and confident in the way he handled the guns. Under his contract with First Artist, he had final cut privileges in this movie. When Peckinpah found out about this, he was visibly upset. He felt like it limited what he could do as a director, because McQueen always chose shots that made him look good. He always went with the safe, pretty boy shots, something Peckinpah wasn't happy about. When Steve McQueen and Ali MacGraw are standing outside the car and McQueen suddenly slaps her, that slap was completely unscripted. McQueen just came up with it himself, and he didn't tell MacGraw that he was going to do it. That's pretty evident from her reaction after it happens. When Ali MacGraw went in to test for the part and to meet with the producers, she didn't even really consider doing it to start with because of the reputations that McQueen and Peckinpah had. They were known as wild, two-fisted beer guzzlers on every set that they worked on. And that wasn't something that she was used to, and she didn't like the feeling of possibly being involved with that type of person. Oddly enough, when she decided to take the role, the very first day that they shot a scene together, there was an instant attraction and chemistry that just overwhelmed her. She states that she had an overwhelming reaction to his presence. They went on to get married, but the marriage didn't last. McQueen couldn't keep his hands off other women. As a matter of fact, Ali MacGraw had 3 ex-husbands that she never took a dime from, and it virtually left her at the brink of financial ruin. She gave up a big part of her career for most of these marriages, but when all these relationships crumbled, it left her nearly broke, and for the past many years, she's been forced to live a quiet and humble life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Take a look back at this really good film. You know I'm a big Sam Peckinpah fan, and most of his stuff is really top-notch, including this one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.